Hello, Cyril. Daramdaman mo ka? Hello.
Yes po, sir.
Okay. Baka ready na yung PowerPoint. Palawi pa mo. Hello. Nagmanayos ko pang bagya. Gulo. Okay. So, atin yung... Okay, sige. Ayan. Yan. Tapos after na niyan, stop mepa. Sige. Kita number 6 slide. Sige, stick slide. Yan. Can may post magsalita ako kanta na.
Opo,
Okay?
sir.
Sige. Tapos isa-rex kanta after na nita, isa-rex na. Pero bayo may ilipat itang screen. I-off mo pa yung screen. Kaya rin ko magsalita. Off mo yung screen. Isa-rex na. Kaya rin na sir-rex. Buklat mo itang last slide. Na. Ayan. So, ali ka pa mag-live na kasi panayin tayo Sir Rex. Hello Cyril. Sige, hello Cyril. I-live mo na. Ready mo na. I-kayo na presentation. Bayo mag-join ni Sir Rex. Sa itang PowerPoint, i-share mo na. Ayan. Sige. So ayan, no? Good evening mga kareyo, no? Welcome sa ating webinar sa Management Advisory Services. Bilang paalala, paki-comment po ang inyong pangalan, eskwelahan at paki-follow ang ating Facebook page para po ma-confirm ang inyong attendance sa webinar na ito. Bukod po doon, sana nakapag-register po kayo sa ating pre-registration form sa Reo Accountancy Group. Kung hindi pa po, sumali po kayo sa ating Reo Accountancy Group. Bago po tayo magsimula, nais ko pong ipaliwanag sa inyo na yung rason bakit wala muna kaming face-to-face discussion or classes for October 2022. Ang pinakarason po nito ay dahil sa risk ng COVID-19 at lahat po ng mga eskwelahan at institution ay nag-a-adjust pa po sa new normal. Mahirap na magkaroon ng discussion kung halimbawa ay naka one seat apart or naka-social distancing ang mga bata, no? So sa October 2022 po natin na review, na ongoing pa po ang ating enrollment dito, pure online review po tayo. Pure online review gamit ang ating mobile app at saka yung ating website. So maaari po kayo mag-enroll ngayon. Nagbibigay po tayo ng discount sa mga Latin Honor graduates and candidates, PWD, senior citizens, and officer po. Ngayon po, for May 2023, ayan po, no, na ating pinagdarasal na bumalik na ng normal sa lahat, no? Ang lahat sa normal, no? Ay magkikita-kita po tayo sa Maynila, no? Sa University Belt, no? Meron na tayong face-to-face discussion kasama ang ating mga high caliber reviewers. So meron po tayong mobile app pa rin sa May 2023 kasama yung face-to-face discussion. Hindi na po mawawala, umaalis itong ating online review technology. Magkakaroon na po tayo ng hybrid. Nire-revolutionize po ni Reo ang CPA review industry. So mananatili po yung ating mobile app technology kasabay yung ating face-to-face discussion. So kung sakali na hindi ka makapasok sa face-to-face classes, meron kang live streaming, meron kang replay doon sa loob ng app. So napakaganda ng magiging serbisyo natin for May 2023. So soon po, no, soon i-announce natin yung enrollment details po dito. Pero sa ngayon, ongoing pa po yung ating October 2022 enrollment. Nagpapasalamat po kami sa lahat ng nagtitiwala sa Reo. For our next webinar, pagkatapos po ng gabing ito, ay next week na po kasama si Sir Vincent J. Garcia, ang ating reviewer sa live lecture for Financial Accounting and Reporting. So yan po ay gaganapin next week, April 30. Pakinote na lang po yung araw na to at magkita-kita po tayo ulit. Okay? So ayan po, si Sir Rex naman po muna ang magsasalita para sa ibang detalye po tungkol sa ating certificate at ibang bagay. Maraming salamat po mga kareyo. God bless us po.
Ayan. Hello, good evening everyone. Thank you so much, and welcome to this seminar series on MAS by our reviewer, Sir Rhad Estoque. Guys, I would like to inform you that there are a total of 19,230 plus registrants for this event tonight, and Reo's capacity in sending the e-certificate is 1,500 per day. So it will be taking us around 2 weeks to send your e-certificates. So please bear with us because the IT capability is limited. Hindi po siya naka-build sa ganitong klase ng volume ng participants, guys. So please do not chat our page within this 2-week period kapag hindi mo pa natatanggap yung e-certificate mo from this event, para hindi na po kami kumbaga mag-explain pa, ha. So yung mga inuuli ko po, yung mga magtatanong ng e-certificate niya, okay, doon sa ating page with the 2 weeks period na susunod ay yung mga hindi po talaga nag-attend ng certificate. Hindi na po namin sila bibigyan kapag gano'n, ha. Okay. Ayan. And I would like to thank also the 425 schools who trusted us, and whose students enrolled with us here in Reo. And salamat guys sa inyong masugid na pag-aabang sa mga events natin po dito sa Reo. These are kumbaga free webinars, no? Ito po yung ating part of the social kumbaga justice initiative, no, of the review center, no, for all of you, lalo na yung mga bata diyan, no, or even professionals kung medyo nakalimutan mo na, no, just follow our page, no. Please inform your friends, your classmates, no, to follow our page. Hindi naman po mahirap gawin yan, no, para ma-inform sila if we have special events like this or promotionals that they could take advantage of. Okay, so yun, guys, for the 425 schools nationwide, thank you so much for your trust, no, and it is because of you na kung saan kami ay parang nakikita na kami po yung parang leading na online reviews right now, no, in industry. It's because of you, no? It's congratulations po sa inyo, hindi po sa amin. Okay? And abangan po ninyo guys, no, yung aming free access, no, this coming May CPA board exam. I-open po namin yung pre-week namin for all students kahit sa ang review center ka man po naka-enroll. I-open po namin yung pre-week lecture namin, and we will be opening our apps then also for the public, no? So lahat ng magte-take ng May 2022 CPA board exam, we will have a free access. So this is a chance, no, for all board examinees of May 2020 kahit saan kang review center. Okay, kung meron ka weakness, for example, in your concepts, no, you can take advantage of this free access that we will opening, no, for the public. Okay, now guys, I just want to flag something, in support of our civil service division. Ganito po, no, para sa mga non-board professional courses here, kunwari BS MA, no, BS AIS, ganun, wala kayong board exam, no? Okay, you may consider also civil service eligibility to pick up your professional credentials. No, meron po kaming service offering, no, for civil service. Meron kaming apps, no, and it's actually very cheap and very very comfortable. It uses the same technology that we are using, and yung mga nyo doon, yung mga reviewers nyo po doon is talagang yung mga CSE reviewers talaga sila, no? All of them are professional teachers, no, with doctoral or master's degree, no, and they are teaching, no, they are teaching in the public school, no? Okay, so kung yung mga students din dito na ang priority nila is career muna, job muna bago board exam, no, you may also consider this para meron kayong parang kumbaga preliminary credentials, no, in securing a job. Then later on you probably take your CPA certificate. So yun po guys, no, please check our civil service app. Okay, downloadable in the Apple App Store, sa doon sa Google Play Store. Okay, so ayun po guys. Now I would like to remind you again, no, please invite your friends, no, to follow the page and join our Rio Accountancy group, no? Huwag niyo pong sinosolo. Yung iba sa inyo dito hindi sinasabi, di ba? Parang ginagawa yung sikreto niyo, no? Okay, no, share it with your friends, no, para malaman din nila to, and then they can take advantage of whatever goodness we could offer from this service. Okay, and now guys, I would like to introduce you our speaker for tonight, Sir Rhad Estoque. Actually guys, he's our reviewer way back in the undergrad. So bata pa lang po kami ay tinagurian na po itong master, no, of MAS. Ang galing po niya magturo, no. Hindi pa po ako professor, bata pa po ako ay napakagaling na po niya magturo. Si Sir Darrell Asuncion ay estudyante niya, and kami din po ay estudyante ni Sir Darrell. So si Sir Rhad ay isa sa mga pinakabatikan. Actually, here in Rio, siya po yung aming pinaka-senior. So please listen to him guys, no. For sure, ang dami niyo pong matutunan sa kanya. Actually, hindi lang po kasi siya outgoing noong time. Hindi siya nagpakilala sa buong Pilipinas kasi he opted to work in Baguio City, and then nagturo siya sa mga local review centers, hindi sa mga national review centers noon. Although nagbibiyahe naman po siya dati to Cebu and to Davao to teach, no? Pero nagpa-low profile lang po si Sir Rhad. So parang bagong, some of you might have seen him just now, but actually, matagal na po siyang review center. Masyadong humble lang po kasi nung tao at masyado siyang nagpaka low profile. Ayaw niya sa camera. Ngayon lang po na eto na, no? Eto nang nag-join sa atin here in Rio. So eto, guys, no? Kilalanin po ninyo, no, si Sir Rhad Estoque. Okay? Sir Rhad, please come over. Thank you so much, guys. God bless you all.
Okay, so good evening. Okay, good evening mga Kariyo. So of course, first and foremost, thank you Rex for that introduction. So anyway, totoo nga yun. So matagal na akong reviewer actually. So by age of 21, reviewer na ako ng board exams. So anyway, so take this, itong privilege ngayong araw na to because yung i-discuss natin is in fact a really challenging topic na biglang lumabas sa board exams natin. So dati, in fact, alam nyo tong topic na to, way back 2014 pa lang nakita ko na to. So sinimulan ko na siyang ituro sa undergrad and then eventually, napansin ko hindi siya lumalabas talaga sa exams. Until lately, way back October of the previous year, including December of the previous year, may mga feedback na sir, may lumalabas sa tungkol sa financial sa balance scorecard, financial perspective, yung evaluation niya. So sir, parang ibang-iba yung mga variances, sabi nila. So ayun, so nung sinabi pa lang yun, I already knew kung ano yung mga variances na tinutukoy. And it was really challenging. Okay, so for tonight, guys, take this opportunity because yung approach na i-present ko sa inyo is I will deviate from traditional methods. Usually, ganun kasi yung presentations ko. So talagang I make or find ways to make things a lot easier and a lot understandable sa aking mga estudyante. So in fact, nung una nakita ko tong topic na to, financial performance measures under balance scorecard, really complicated. Nag-deviate siya sa mga traditional methods ng variance analysis, traditional concepts ng variance analysis. Meron siyang sariling mundo. Okay, so that is what I will present to you today. I will present to you alternative method na wala talaga sa libro. Okay, hindi mo mahanapan to sa libro. Ang source nito, guys, isa lang ang author na nag-present ng topic na to. It is only Horngren lang ang nag-present nito, wala nang iba. Kahit i-search mo to sa internet, wala silang ibibigay sa example because nakalagay pa doon, it is very difficult, sabi niya. So, alam nyo naman, usually pag mga ganyan, na-challenge ako how will I simplify a very difficult situation or difficult topic? And ito na yon. So guys, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you to understand at its totality. Kaya take advantage tayo dito take advantage tayo. Ayan, so this will be quick, this will be brief. Conceptual discussions tayo from the concepts, application then from the application, what is important is dapat na-grasp mo na yung mga basic concepts and approaches na i-present ko sa inyo. Okay? So first and foremost, tignan natin saglit. This is SIPALE syllabus. Under both the October as well as the May exams, lalabas to, kasama to sa syllabus natin. So pati yung numbering niya sa SIPALE hindi na nagbago. This is under 1.3.2 balance scorecard. Kaya ngayong gaming to, we will also go over, titignan din natin kung brief background on what balance scorecard is all about. And then from there, titignan lang natin yung papasadahan natin, the nature and perspectives of the balance scorecard. Ano yung apat? Just to give you a working knowledge on what we are dealing with. And then from there, concentrate na tayo sa financial performance measures. Ang usual kasi na dinidiscuss sa atin sa undergrad is only the non-financial performance measures. Why? Kasi yan yung madali na portion. Yan yung very easy. Manufacturing cycle efficiency, throughput time, ganun lang kasimple, di ba? Pero pagdating na sa financial, it's really challenging. Kaya bihirang-bihira nagdi-discuss niyan. And in fact, marami sa mga graduates natin ang never nilang nahagilap man tong topic na to. So, yun siya. So, nung humingi ng topic, I decided to, ito magandang topic to. So, first and foremost, tignan muna natin, background check muna tayo, no? Backgrounder muna natin see what balance scorecard, the nature and the perspectives of the balance scorecard. By the way, guys, may mga questions din dito So, yung mga questions mamaya, try din lang natin magsagot. Okay, try natin magsagot. So, may mga multiple choice akong pang quick check lang. Ayan, so meron tayo. So first and foremost, you have the nature of the balance scorecard. What is a balance scorecard nga ba? Guys, ang balance scorecard will fall under performance evaluation strategies. Dati ang alam lang natin is yung responsibility accounting lang, di ba? But eventually, what happened to performance evaluation? Nag-evolve na yan. Nag-evolve na siya to the point na ang performance evaluation is no longer compartmentalized. It is now an analysis of an action affecting the entire organization na ngayon. Di ba dati ano lang tinitingnan natin? Performance lang ni supervisor. Ngayon hindi na. Ang tinitingnan natin is, this is what happened in my operations. What is the repercussion to the entire company? So kumbaga, ang balance scorecard is now a blanket evaluation strategy that will now come from the company's vision, mission, and objectives. Naka-align na yan, pababa. And then pag pababa na siya, pagdating na doon, performance evaluation, from the lowest, pataas na naman yan. So tinitignan natin all aspects of doing business na ngayon. So lahat ng mga performance evaluation strategies will now fall under the umbrella of balance scorecard na ngayon. Mas broad na tayo ngayon. So if you notice, consists of integrated sets of performance measures. Ano tong performance measures na tinutukoy na yan? Makikita natin yan. Yan ang tinatawag natin na the perspectives of the balance scorecard. Are derived from or support the company's strategy throughout the organization. So again, guys, pag sinabi nating strategy, ang strategy pertains to your competitive advantage. So mamaya titignan natin ano nga ba yung competitive advantages natin. And then ang question lang doon is, how will I know if I am successful with the competitive advantage that I ventured into? Yun ang gagamitan natin ng quantitative analysis. Kaya as promised sa Facebook, di ba nilagay ko doon, una magko-compute tayo, tapos mag-analyze tayo, and then mag-i-interpret na tayo. Gagawin talaga natin yan. Mag-evaluate tayo. So, which is already the trend in the board exams. Ang trend ng board exam natin ngayon is already not just computing, but it is already decision-making na. So, we will train you in that area. So, it is a strategic management system that translates the vision and strategy of an organization into operational objectives and measures. In other words, ano na ngayon to? In other words, overall na ngayon. Okay, so now, titignan natin yung 4 na perspectives. So, ang kadalasan sa undergrad, ito yung tinuturo sa undergrad. No? So, the 4 perspectives of the balance scorecard and how they are interrelated from each other. So, it all starts with, in fact, guys, kadalasan ko minsan, ang presentation ng mga authors dito is baliktad. They always start with financial. In fact, mali yun. Okay, mali talaga yun. Ang start ng lahat-lahat is in fact learning and growth, lalo na sa performance evaluation. What is learning and growth? Ang learning and growth basically is simply your employees undergoing training. Siyempre, pag yung empleyado natin, they will undergo training, mag-i-improve yung kanilang skills. Pag nag-improve yung kanilang skills, they become better, they become more efficient, effectively improving the production process. Pag nag-improve ang production process, measurements na tayo in terms of internal business process. So sa internal business process, ano man tinitingnan natin dyan? Ang tinitingnan natin dito is, ano na nga ba ulit? That is manufacturing cycle efficiency, that is throughput time, delivery cycle time. Tama? So yun lang matinitingnan natin dyan. How to improve the internal processes or the production process itself. Efficiency, kumbaga. Production efficiency. Our objective sa internal business process is to provide a high-quality product that is needed by our customers. Para masatisfy natin yung ating customers. Ito na yon. Kaya pataas talaga. Pag diniscuss dapat to is upward. Okay? So kasunod dyan is now the customer perspective. What is customer perspective? How do you satisfy your customers? You can only satisfy your customers if you consider, number 1, marami yan, ano? So first and foremost, dapat high quality yung product mo. Tapos high quality na nga yung product, dapat affordable pa. Okay, tapos aside from affordable, ano dapat? May product innovation. And after product innovation, finally, it is what? Okay, it will add value to your customer. So, dapat on-time delivery pati. Dapat pag prinamis mo, paglabas ng product na to, nandito na siya. Lalabas na yung product na to. Example, di ba guys? Example, pag si Apple, Pag pre-namis ni Apple na lalabas yung product niya sa araw na to, next day sigurado nasa Apple stores na yan. Unlike with what happened with Nokia before. So Nokia before, nag-launch siya, di ba? 3310, relaunching. What happened? Nag-relaunch na siya. Dito sa Pilipinas, wala pa rin. Dumating dito sa Pilipinas after 1 year. That's too late. Okay, that's too late. Hindi mo masatisfy ang customer mo. If you satisfy your customer, eventually tinawag it down to the financial perspective, which is our concentration for today. Binibigyan muna kita ng background, bina-background muna kita para makita mo yung buong picture tapos kung saan na tayo magfo-focus. So that is the 4 perspectives of the balance scorecard. And mind you guys, there was even a time before na even sa actual board exam, tinanong nila yan. Which of the following are the 4 perspectives of the balance scorecard? So you see, simple recall lang yan para lumalabas yan. Okay, so again, tignan natin to. Okay, tignan natin. So, okay, so which of the following statements correctly describes the purpose of a balanced scorecard? Okay, so ano nga ba, no? Ang dito, anong tamang sagot dito? So guys, ang balanced scorecard is always a combination of, it is a combination of financial and non-financial performance measures to help an organization achieve its goals. So yung financial performance measures na yan, that is the financial perspective. What are the non-financial performance measures? Yung tatlo. Okay, yung tatlo na na-present natin kanina doon sa 4 perspectives of the balanced scorecard. Okay? So, eto na. Okay, so background pa rin tayo guys ha. Background lang. Mamaya, kumbaga, I'm just warming up pa lang. Nag-warm up tayo. Mamaya magiging technical na tong discussion. Highly technical na. So, what is a strategy? So, pag sinabi nating strategy, that is what you want to attain. Yun ang gagawin mo para ma-capture mo yung target market mo. Yun ang gagawin mo para mapansin ka ng customers. It is the strategy that will make your product differentiated with your competitors. That is the strategy. So how do we make a strategy? You simply match your own capabilities with the opportunities in the marketplace for you to attain your objective. Simply stated, for you to become successful, dapat pag-aralan mong maigi yung market mo. Pag-aralan mo maigi yung market mo, provide mo yung product na gusto nila. After doing so, you will become successful. Okay? Strategy yun. And there are 2 basic types of strategies. Ano yung dalawang to? Ito na siya. Guys, pagdating mamaya sa performance evaluation, this is simple qualitative presentation lang. Pero mamaya nagko-quantitative analysis na tayo, tapos we are now evaluating successful ba yung product differentiation niya. Successful ba ang cost leadership niya? Pag-uusapan na natin yan mamaya. So, what is product differentiation muna? I'm laying down the foundations first. So, pag sinabi nating product differentiation, your product can be noticed by your customers. An example ng product differentiation, ang best example nito is the Apple products. Di ba? Apple products. Sa itsura pa lang ng Apple product, alam na alam mo na. Okay, but in no sense pala, not connected with Apple. Discussion purposes lang to. Tapos aside from that, yung design ng product niya, alam na alam mo, di ba? Na Apple product ka agad dyan. That's product differentiation. You create distinct from your competitors. Ang strategy ng product differentiation is at times you cater to a target market. At times ang target market natin is somewhat the high-end. Specific market ka pag nag-product differentiation. In contrast, what is meant by cost leadership? Ang cost leadership naman is affordability of the product. Affordable, kaya tinawag niya cost leadership. So pag affordability lang to, ano kailangan natin gawin? Ang kailangan natin gawin is dapat yung ating production process is highly efficient, that we take advantage of economies of scale, cost leadership. Ayan. So that is your ability to produce a product that is of high quality, but it is very affordable. Cost leadership na yun. Ang product differentiation, guys, meron siyang specific features na unique to that product. So, pagdating sa pricing strategies, itatawid muna kita saglit sa pricing kasi mamaya tatamaan na yan pagdating sa variance analysis natin. Sa product differentiation, since unique ang product mo, you can command a very high price. Example si Apple, di ba? They can command a very high price kasi nga unique yung product niya. Proprietary siya. In contrast, pag cost leadership, yung product mo generic in nature. Ang market mo is what? Ang market mo is somewhat the mid-range and the low-end market na. You no longer establish product differentiation. Example yan, mga cellphones natin na affordable. Diba? The low-end cellphone market. Affordable sila. Wala nang product differentiation doon. Cost leadership na lang, affordability. Yun ang labanan pagdating sa cost leadership. Now, dito tayo. Okay, so earlier, na-present natin yung 4 perspectives ng balanced scorecard. Tapos sabi natin, di ba, nakalink silang lahat. Tapos na-discuss din ang strategy. In balanced scorecard, what is important is known as the strategy map. Ang strategy map na to lumabas ulit sa last na board exam natin. Okay, so meron ulit to. So tinanong ulit sa akin yan, sir, ano yung strategy map? Yan, so ito na nga si strategy map. So kumbaga ang strategy map will now show us the relationship of one activity to another activity that will now redound, that will now connect the 4 perspectives of the balanced scorecard. Okay? So itong nilagay ko dito, simple lang to. Kinuha ko to kay Garrison. I have a lot of diagrams similar to this, pero kinuha ko yung kay Garrison kasi simple lang yung presentation niya. Considering our audience for today, magkakaiba kasi yung range ng audience natin. So simply stated, if you notice, sa simple example natin, yung workers natin will undergo training lang. Okay? So nag-improve yung kanilang learning and growth. From learning and growth, what is the effect? Ang effect niya, dumami yung kanilang options na pwedeng i-offer, which is now this one. And then from there, bumilis, di ba? Alam niyo yung customer waiting time? Customer waiting time na bawasan. Ito na yung time to install an option na bawasan niya. And then it will now create the customer satisfaction. Ito na siya. With customer satisfaction, it will now lead down to what? Higher profits na tayo. Yan ang tinatawag na strategy map. It is the interrelationship of the 4 perspectives utilizing cause and effect relationship. Dapat alam natin to. Okay? So, syempre for today, ang assumption natin is naging successful na tayo dito. Successful na rin tayo dito at saka dito. Ang titignan na lang natin dito sa area na to. Okay? Guys, meron tayong mga evaluation models dito ha. Meron tayo. So, pati sa mga, hindi na ako naglagay ng mga MC questions tungkol dito. Concentrate na lang tayo sa financial perspective. Okay? So anyway, quick check lang tayo, quick check lang. A balanced scorecard provides an action plan for achieving competitive success by focusing management attention on critical success factors. Which one of the following is not one of the competitive success factors commonly focused upon in the balanced scorecard? In other words, alin dyan ang hindi kasali sa perspectives ng balanced scorecard? Okay, so guys, alin ang nawawala dito? Ang nawawala dito ay, tamang sagot, that is, wala tayong competitor business strategies. Walang ganito sa 4 na perspectives ng balanced scorecard. Okay? So, hindi na natin papakialaman si competitor in terms of performance evaluation. Hindi na. Okay, so ito na siya. Guys, dito na tayo. Ito na yung meat ng discussion natin. At this point, I will need your complete attention and complete concentration na. Okay, ito na yon. Ito na yung meat natin. So, sa syllabus ng board exam, that is 1.3.2.2. That is now financial and non-financial performance measures. Pero hin-highlight ko ito kasi dito tayo magko-concentrate. Okay? So, what are the financial performance measures trying to measure? What are we trying to evaluate? Tatlo. Okay, ano yung tatlong yan? First and foremost, you have what is known as the growth component. What is the growth component? Pag sinabi natin growth component, it is the company's ability to increase its number of units sold. Pero yun nga lang kasi, ayun nga lang, pag nag-increase ang ating sales units, eventually what will happen? Mag-increase din ang production cost mo. Ang tinitignan natin dito is, sa growth component, anong mas mataas? Increase in sales due to the increase in number of units sold or increase in cost due to the increase in number of units produced? Kaya ang growth component natin will arise from 2. Dalawang variances ang titignan natin. May growth component ang revenue, meron din growth component ang variable cost. Okay, meron yan. So that's the first component, growth. Ang keyword natin dito sa growth component is quantity. Okay, number of units sold. Okay, sumasabay ang dalawang yan. Next, na kailangan nating i-analyze are the traditional methods. So nga pala guys, itong unang dalawang to, this is the traditional. Alam niyo itong growth component na to, sa variance analysis, ang counterpart niyan, yan yung quantity variance natin. Okay, yan si quantity variance. What is price recovery component naman? Ang price recovery component, again, pag basic ng variance analysis, di ba dalawa yan? The price factors and the physical factors. So, physical, which is not the growth component. This is in fact the quantity variance. May konting twist nga lang to. In contrast, what is the price recovery naman? Ang price recovery variance or price recovery component is in fact the price variances. Yun nga lang may konting twist na naman. See, balance scorecarding. Kumbaga, may sariling mundo ang variances ng balance scorecarding. But there is a logic behind. Explain ko sa inyo mamaya pagdating natin doon. Ang price recovery component, meron tayong changes in selling price. So meron tayong revenue. May revenue variance yan. May component siya sa revenue variance. Moreover, may changes in variable cost din tayo, di ba? May changes in the variable cost component. So meron din siyang price recovery component. Fixed cost. Ang fixed cost natin in total is constant. Pero fixed cost nagbabago to. Napapalit-palitan yan, di ba? Depending on the number of units produced. Inversely correlated with the number of units produced. Ang fixed cost na to, meron din siyang changes in price. So may price recovery component din to. Yun. So yun ang price recovery. Ang price recovery component again is similar to what? That is similar to the price variances. Okay, price variances. Kasunod, productivity. Okay guys, ito na si productivity. Of the variances under balance scorecarding, productivity ang medyo somewhat na-introduce dito. But in fact, productivity variances is no longer new to you. Productivity, kung natatandaan natin yung mix and yield variances ng materials and labor, the yield variance is in fact synonymous to the productivity variance. How well did you utilize the input components to produce the products? Yun ang productivity. Tapos pag dinagdagan pa natin ang analysis natin, di ba meron tayong formula ng productivity? What is the formula of productivity? Productivity basically is output divided by the input. That is what we're trying to measure dito sa productivity variances. How many of my input components did I have to utilize for me to produce the required output in comparison with that of this year with that of last year? Ayan. So magsisimula na akong gagamit ng technical terms sa hihirap na hihirap as we progress. Kaya guys, sabi ko sa inyo, full concentration na tayo. This is the meat of our discussion. Ang productivity component is only applicable for cost components lang. Okay, cost components lang. Wala tayong productivity in terms of the revenue factors. Wala. So ang revenue natin is only what? That is only for the usual quantity sold and changes in selling price lang. Ang variable natin, variable cost natin kompleto. Ang variable cost natin, meron siyang growth, meron siyang price recovery, meron din siyang productivity component. In contrast, ang fixed cost, ano lang meron sa fixed cost? Price recovery lang at saka productivity component. Bakit kaya walang growth component sa fixed cost? Ang rason doon guys, okay, kung bakit wala siyang growth component is we are working within the relevant range. Within the relevant range, ang fixed cost natin will remain constant. Hindi yan magbabago. Beyond the relevant range, hindi na sakop ng discussion natin. Okay, ibang level na naman yon, which is mas mahirap na naman. So, limit muna natin dito, no? Limit muna natin dito sa discussions natin. Relevant range assumption muna tayo. Okay, guys, quick check ulit tayo. Quick check lang. To ensure that the division vice president places appropriate focus on both the short-term and long-term objectives of the division, the best approach should be to evaluate the vice president's performance by using, again, guys, it is always a combination of financial and non-financial measures of performance. So ang kagandahan kasi sa financial measures, it can be quantified. Pag non-financial measures naman, it can be quantified pero immediate yung action mo. Ang financial performance measures, guys, is somewhat lagging indicators yan. May delay pa yan. Kasi hintayin mo pa yung financial reports. Ang non-financial, meron na tayong immediate action naman. Yun ang advantage niya. Kaya in balanced scorecard, pag nag-analyze ka, short term is the non-financial. Long term is the financial measurements. Okay? So yun ang logic niya. Anyway, dito na tayo. Kanina, binigyan kita ng dalawang major strategies. Ano yung dalawang yan? Diniscuss natin ang product differentiation as well as price leadership. So what are the indicators sa tatlong components na present natin sa inyo? Okay, so the growth, the price recovery, as well as the productivity components. Pag product differentiation, ang gusto mo is mag-offer ka ng unique product. You offer a unique product, therefore, since you offer a unique product, what happens? Ano mangyari sa selling price natin? Yung selling price natin, mataas yan, sigurado. If your selling price is very high, eventually what happens? It should show a large positive price recovery component. Ang question lang dito is, paano natin ito i-compute? Okay, pero guys, this is how it will be used in decision making. So later on, yan na yung lumabas ulit sa board exams natin nung last. Ito yung strategy ng company, naging successful kaya sila. Ayan, may example din tayo dito. Di-discuss ko rin sa inyo. So if measurements of successful product differentiation indicates that there should be a large positive price recovery component. Ibig sabihin nun, the increase in selling price was favorable compared to the increase in cost. Mas mataas yung favorable increase in price kaysa sa unfavorable increase in production cost. Product differentiation. Ayan. Okay? In contrast, ano naman ang benchmarks or ano naman ang basis natin para malaman natin na successful ang cost leadership? Ang cost leadership naman, it will show a large positive productivity component. What is productivity? Productivity is your ability to utilize your cost components to generate more products, which is what? Yun yung tinatawag natin production efficiency and economies of scale. So if your productivity component is favorable, significantly favorable, simply means we were able to utilize the input components properly. Naging successful tayo ron. Cost leadership na yan. Mamaya, ito na yung mga questions natin. Okay guys, okay, ito yung questions natin. So tingnan natin, successful implementation of cost leadership strategy will result in what? So pag successful ang cost leadership natin, ano dapat ang magiging favorable? Guys, what is favorable should be the productivity and growth components. So guys, take note, in-emphasize natin earlier na pag cost leadership, it is more on productivity. Pero syempre, for both strategies to become really successful, both should also have a favorable growth component. What is favorable growth component? Nadagdagan pa rin yung sales mo. Why? Because increasing sales is a measurement of customer satisfaction. So in general na yan, pagdating sa growth component. So nakapartner lang ng productivity pag cost leadership. Okay? Another question. Tignan natin to. Successful implementation of product differentiation strategy will result in what? Nabanggit ko sa inyo kanina. For you to become successful pagdating sa product differentiation, ang tinitignan natin dyan should be the favorable price recovery component dapat. Okay, so guys, ganyan ha. Dapat alam natin. Alam natin ano yung mga basis ng decision natin. Because later on, magko-compute na tayo. Tapos pag nag-compute tayo, how you interpret that? Anong corrective action ang gagawin mo if there is need to make corrective actions? Okay. So guys, eto na yon. This is now the computation side. First and foremost, sa computation side natin, bibigyan muna kita ng backgrounder. Then from the backgrounder, bibigyan kita ng logical approaches. Then from the logical approaches, computation tayo. Okay. So aside from this pala guys, I would kung gusto niyo mag-screenshot, lalo na sa mga examples natin mamaya, sige lang. Okay, para mas lalo niyo siya maintindihan. When we analyze the financial perspective, dalawa ang possible na approach na pwede natin gawin. We can use the per component. Ano ibig sabihin ng per component na yan? Mag-growth ka muna, mag-price recovery ka, and then mag-productivity ka. That is the traditional method. Traditional yan. It is what? Ano major disadvantage niya? It is technically more confusing. Kaya most of the time, pag nakita mo yung source material, try mong intindihin, try mong basahin. Sigurado ko mako-confuse ka. Sigurado ko malilito ka. Sa ganun pa lang na presentation niya. Yun nga lang, the reason kung bakit per component ang presentation ng traditional approaches is because it supports qualitative analysis. Okay, qualitative. However, what I will present to you today is the alternate method, which is now the logical approach, which is now easier for you to understand and easier for you to analyze. Simply stated, pag sinabi nating logical approach, pag nag-analyze tayo, puro revenues lang muna. Revenues lang. Tignan na natin yung mga variances niya. Tapos, pag nag-analyze tayo ng cost, hatiin natin si variable at saka si fixed. Analyzein natin si variable. Kompleto na yan, lahat ng variances niya. Tapos, analyzein na rin natin si fixed. Kompleto na rin siya. Okay, so guys, ganun lang ha. Ganun lang. Now, this is what is known as the bird's eye view analysis. This is the general concepts in variance analysis. Wag na wag niyong kakalimutan na lahat ng variances is always actual minus standard. Yan ang laging ending ng lahat ng variances. Always actual minus standard. So recall lang ng basics. I'm laying down the foundations kasi from the foundations, tataas na yung level ng difficulty nito. We now have the actual price at actual quantity. Di ba? That's actual. Napakasimple. Tapos ito naman, static budget or the standard price multiplied with standard quantity. Ganun lang yon. It's already the standard. In between the two is the flexible budget. A flexible budget is based on standard price times actual quantity. Okay? So the difference between actual and flexible budget is already obvious. Naka-actual price yan, naka-standard price yan, multiply with actual quantity, automatic, ano, variance to. That is the price variance. Okay, basic na basic, di ba? Basic na basic. Then from yung static naman, okay, ito naman, pag flexible versus the static budget or the standard, what happens? That is not the standard price, pareho lang, di ba? Pareho lang. Kaya ano to, actual quantity minus standard quantity multiplied with that standard price. Alam natin yan. That is the quantity variance. Expert na tayo doon. Di ba? Expert na tayo dyan. Now, doon sa balance scorecarding, ang ina-analyze natin kasi is this year versus last year. So, logic. Gamitan lang natin to ng logic. What is actual? Actual is synonymous to this year because this year is the year that you're trying to analyze. Tama? And what is standard naman? Ang standard naman is synonymous to last year. Bakit? Because last year is your benchmark. Tama? Since benchmark mo last year, yun ang magiging basis natin ng standard. Therefore, any variance is always actual minus standard. Therefore, sa balance scorecarding, it is this year minus last year. Okay? So, again, yung basic mo ha, yung basic mo, wag mong kakalimutan yan. Ang ending ng lahat nandito. Lahat-lahat na gagawin natin, babalik sa concept na yan. This is known as the tabulated approach. Ito na, unahin natin yung changes, analyzing changes in revenue. If you were taught yung revenue variances ninyo, natatandaan nyo pa ang mga revenue variances ninyo, ang mga revenue variance ng balance scorecarding is the same. Parehong-pareho sa revenue variances natin. So the change in revenue is composed of the components, price recovery and the growth component as stated earlier. Paano to? So I'm giving you the equations muna ha. Mamaya may problem na to. So sales this year, okay, or that is synonymous to what? What is sales this year again? Parang actual lang yan, di ba? Parang actual. Versus sales this year at last year's price, which is synonymous again to your flexible budget. Kita natin, sales this year, meaning sales units this year at last year's price. Synonymous to what? Parang flexible budget lang to. The difference between the two is the price recovery component. Sales last year, sales this year at last year's price versus sales last year, ano naman to? Difference in quantity. Di ba? Pag difference in quantity, it is now the parang sales quantity variance ito. Pero ano lang tawag natin? We just call it as the growth. Okay, the growth component lang ang tawag natin sa kanya. Okay? So yan si revenue. Alternate solution. So from the tabulated approach, ayan ang tawag natin dito total approach. Yan si price recovery, ito si growth component. Meron pa tayong alternate solution. Okay, this is another alternate solution. It is also computed as ito yung basics ng revenue variances. Selling price this year minus selling price last year multiply with sales quantity this year. That is the price component of the revenue. Okay, so pareho lang, di ba? Sa revenue variances natin. Now, yung growth component natin, what's growth component? Alternate solution. Alternate solution, that is quantity. Sales quantity this year minus sales quantity last year multiply with times selling price last year is equal to what? Ito na yung quantity variance mo. That is synonymous to the revenue. That's the sales volume variance. Pareho pa rin naman under balance scorecard. Okay? Next, how about yung cost? Ito guys, napaka-importante. Pag nag-analyze tayo ng cost, dapat nakahiwalay ang variable cost at saka fixed cost. Kasi magkaiba yung analysis natin dito. So because variable cost changes per unit. In contrast, ang fixed cost naman natin constant yan. Yun nga lang ang analysis natin ngayon is only limited to the relevant range assumption lang. Okay, hanggang relevant range lang tayo ha. Ito lang yan. So, ito na yan. Okay guys, wala to sa libro. Okay, wala to sa libro. Dito mo lang mahanapan yan. Dito lang yan. The change in cost. Ito na si variable component natin and the three components. The change in cost is composed of the three. It is the productivity, the price, and the growth. Okay? Now look at this. Pansinin nyo itong productivity niya. Ang productivity component, guys, is similar to the yield variance. Okay? Similar to the yield variance of materials and labor. What is yield variance muna? Iba-background muna kita. Ang yield variance is how much did I consume? My actual consumption versus what should have been my actual consumption if nasunod yung standard. Yun ang yield variance natin, which is in fact the productivity variance of the variable cost component. Tingnan nyo to. This is total variable cost this year. Guys, nandito yung explanations nito. Okay, kung ano ibig sabihin ng mga yan. Nandito. Pero I want to see you the bird's eye view. That is total variable cost this year. Pag kinonvert sana natin sa actual at saka sa standard, this is synonymous to actual price times actual quantity. Okay? Versus total variable cost last year is synonymous to what? Standard price at standard quantity. Basically, anong ending nito? That is this year minus last year. That is actual minus standard. Tama? But in between is this one. Ito ang bago sa variable cost ng balance scorecarding. How do they compute for the price variance? Is quite different. Di ba normally, pag mag-price variance tayo, actual price minus standard price multiply with the actual quantity, di ba? Dito hindi. Ang ginagamit niya is the counterpart of the flexible budget quantity allowed. Okay? Flexible budget quantity allowed ang ginagamit natin dito. Which is, pag this year, last year, it is synonymous to, this is input. Input this year at last year's price. Input this year at last year's price yon. And this is based on what? Variable cost this year, variable cost last year. The difference between the two, productivity ito naman, tong dalawan to is the price variance. Ito na yung deviation natin sa traditional na variances. Sa traditional na variance, normally, di ba stated earlier, that is difference in price multiplied with actual quantity. Dito sa atin ngayon, hindi na. It is difference in price multiplied with the flexible budget quantity, which is as good as what? Ito kailangan natin i-compute mamaya. This is the something new na makikita mo ngayong araw na to. Okay? That's the price. Kasunod, how about the growth component? Ang growth component nito is as simple as what? Quantity na naman, di ba? Normally, anong quantity variance natin? Ang quantity variance natin normally is actual quantity minus standard price. Sorry. That is actual quantity minus standard quantity multiplied with the standard price. Tama? Pero pansin nyo to. Ano yung quantity variance niya or growth component niya? It is based on the flexible budget allowed minus the standard quantity multiply with the standard price. Or bottom line, pag this year, last year, that is input this year at last year's price, okay, based on the variable cost, based on production ratio, minus the total variable cost last year. Ito na siya, naging growth component na to. This will become meaningful later on pag nagsasubstitute na tayo sa given problem natin. I'm laying down the foundations. I'm showing you kung ano yung logic ng mga formula na to. It is useless memorizing formulas. Guys, take note. Memorizing is the lowest form of learning. But if you understand the concepts behind the formula, maintindihan mo. Bakit nga ba tinawag na productivity ito? It is a deviation between actual quantity and the flexible budget allowed. Okay? Productivity yan. Tama? That's the logic kung bakit productivity. Bakit tinawag na price variance ito? Difference in price eh. Yeah? Difference in price. Therefore, it is what? It is a price variance nga. Bakit ito tinawag na growth? Because that is now what? That is the flexible budget versus the static budget allowed. Quantity, deviation ulit sa quantity. So, naging growth component siya. Okay? Variable cost natin yan. Okay, variable cost. Alternate solutions. Okay guys, may alternate formula pa tayo. Alternate formula ng productivity for variable cost. So, kumbaga, lahat nandito. So, from the basic equations to alternative methods, nandito na. So, quantity this year minus quantity this year at last year's input ratio multiply with the cost this year. Okay guys, this is the alternate solution ng variable productivity. This is known as the per unit approach. Okay, per unit approach. Itong tabulated natin, total approach ito. Total approach. This is per unit approach. Ang labanan sa board exam, mas marami yung approach na alam mo, mas magaling ka, mas mabilis ka. Okay? Do not be contented with one approach. Dapat marami yung approaches na alam natin. If you can do that, walang problema ang board. Napakadali ang board exams. Cost effect. Guys, tignan nyo itong cost effect. Okay, direct approach na naman to. That is cost this year minus cost last year multiply with the quantity this year at last year's input ratio. Okay, this is the counterpart of the flexible budget allowed. Diba? Yan ang flexible budget allowed natin. Or this one. Now, how about the growth component of variable? Okay, so guys, ang growth component ng variable, quantity. Quantity this year at last year's input ratio minus the quantity last year times the cost last year is the growth component na natin yan. Okay? Now, eto si fixed. Fixed component. I am aware na sa traditional variances natin, ang fixed cost natin is ano lang, di ba? Si overhead lang. That is only what? That is simply the fixed spending and the fixed overhead volume variance lang. May konting twist. Okay, may konting twist sa balance scorecarding. First and foremost, guys, pansinin mo to ha. Pansinin mo to. Una, mag-basic muna tayo. Fixed cost this year minus fixed cost last year. Bottom line, ano yan? As good as actual minus standard lang, di ba? Parang actual minus standard lang yan. Now, tignan mo to. What is in between? That is the unit cost this year at capacity last year. So pag sinimplify natin to using actual versus standards, ano nangyari? Pansinin nyo tong productivity niya. Actual capacity minus standard capacity multiply with the actual price. Yan ang productivity variance ng fixed cost. Ibang-iba siya. Di ba? This is the quantity factor. In terms of variances, ito yung quantity element niya. So usually pag quantity variance, ano ginagamit natin? Di ba standard price? Eh dito, kay fixed component, ano ginamit natin? Actual price. Ang gagamitin mo. Yun siya. Kaya fixed cost this year, pareho yan. Unit cost this year, fixed cost this year, pareho yan. Ang pinagkaiba yung capacity. Ito yon. Productivity na yan. So bakit nga ba productivity to? Di ba? Pag sinabi kasi nating productivity, utilization of the available resource. It is economies of scale. It is utilization of what is available na machines natin. Capacity yan, productivity. In terms of price naman, ito guys, ibang-iba. No? Imagine ang fixed cost. Meron siyang sariling price. So, ito yon. Actual price, hypothetical, para lang makuha yung logic. That is actual price minus standard price multiplied with the standard capacity. Okay? Ito na yan. So, this becomes the price variance. Normally, anong price variance natin? Di ba ang price variance natin normally is difference in price multiplied with actual quantity except for the fixed. Kaya sabi sa may sariling mundo te. Ang ginagamit niya standard capacity or that is now the capacity last year. Ito yun. Okay? So guys, ganun yun ha. Ito alternate solutions tayo. Alternate. Guys, ito mga formula na to, take advantage na yung mga yan. Wala yan sa libro. Promise. Okay, wala yan sa libro. Nandito lang yan. Nandito lang yan sa Rio. Ayan. I had to develop this approaches. Yung tatlong tables na tabulated approaches na nakita mo, hindi mo yan makikita sa libro. Hindi mo yan mahanapan sa internet. Wala doon. I had to develop it para mas simplify yung analysis niya. And even if it is already simplified, pag tinignan mo, it's a little bit complicated pa rin. But you will fully understand this once pag nasa illustrations na tayo. Okay, malapit na to guys, malapit na. Alternate solutions ng fixed cost. Logic, okay, logic na rin. Ito tinatawag natin na this is the tabulated approach. From the tabulated approach, ito na yung specifically, di ba? Specific measurements. So for productivity, capacity ang tinitingnan natin dyan. Capacity this year minus capacity last year, multiply mo ng fixed cost per unit this year. Okay, yun lang yung multiply natin doon. Productivity yan. Dapat master din natin yung mga individual formula na to. Kasi syempre sa board exam, ang itatanong naman sa atin at times are the individual equations. Tama? Hindi naman kadalasan na itatanong lahat sa atin. Pero syempre nagsisimula ka pa lang eh. So what is important is dapat makita mo muna yung buong picture niya. By the way guys, ang ginagamit ko dito na approach is I'm using deductive reasoning. Okay, deductive reasoning to. There are multiple ways of approaching problems kasi meron tayong inductive, meron tayong deductive. I'm using deductive reasoning for this one, which is a lot easier. Okay? So ito yung alternate solution ng price recovery. Pansin natin, cost this year minus cost last year, para ni-multiply natin capacity last year. And guys, pansin nyo to, nilagay ko lang to ha. Di ba kanina sa introduction, sabi ko sa inyo, there is no such thing as growth component of the fixed cost. Pero I had to present it to you. Pansin nyo to. Kaya naka-color red dito. Capacity last year minus capacity last year times cost last year. Question, bakit parehong capacity last year? Because this is the relevant range. Within the relevant range, our fixed cost will not increase. Ibig sabihin nun, kung ano yung capacity mo last year is already sufficient enough to produce the number of units produced and sold this year. Kaya ganito yung formula ng growth variance mo. So literally, zero ang growth factor or growth component ng fixed cost. I had to present it here para makita mo lang yung pinaka-concept niya. Okay? Illustration na tayo. Okay, illustration. So ito, okay guys, screenshot nyo to ha. Screenshot mo yan. I'm giving you the permission. Screenshot mo yung problem na to. Total yung problem na yan, nanggaling lang naman to sa source material natin. Pero yung solution ko, ibang-iba sa source material. Okay, ibang-iba siya. Source material, ang hirap intindihin. Yung solution ko is already the simplified version. So Logitech's data for 20x1 and 20x0 follow. So by the way guys, ang importante dito is masundan mo yung concept ha. Masundan mo yung ginagawa natin. The approaches is the same across all situations. Parehong-pareho yan. So we now have your units of ST1 products produced and sold. This is for 20x1 and 20x0. This year, last year. Selling price 22 and 23. Okay guys, analyze na tayo ha. Pansin nyo dito, nag-increase yung sales units niya. Pero ano nangyari sa selling price? Nag-decrease ang selling price. Pag pinasok economics, ano yan? That's price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand, decreasing prices, increasing in number of units sold. Tama? Meron pa, tignan natin to. Guys, tignan mo to. Direct materials mo. Direct materials, 2,900 consumption. X1, X0, 3,000. Pero pansin nyo, Pansinin mo to, mas marami yung production and sales natin, pero mas kokonti ang consumption natin ng materials. Hint na yan ng productivity. Hint na yan ng hint na yan ng growth. Ito palang hint na ng growth ito. Ito naman productivity kaagad dyan. Okay, so di ba productivity is economies of scale, efficient utilization of resources. So kitang-kita. Pansin nyo to guys, number 4. Direct material cost per square centimeter. Nag-increase ang price. Di ba? Nag-increase ang price from 140 naging 1.5 na siya. So titingnan natin later on, ano kaya in terms of price? Mas mataas ba increase in selling price kesa affecting revenues or increase in cost affecting our materials? Next, tignan natin to. Manufacturing capacity. Ang manufacturing capacity ng X0 is already 3,750,000. Pagdating ng X1, 3.5 million. But, okay guys, this is relevant range. Ibig sabihin nun, yung number of units na kailangan natin i-produce for 20X1 is still sufficient to be produced based on the capacity of the previous year. Kaya magtaka, sir, bakit mas mababa na to? Mas mababa na yung 3.5. Guys, hindi rin. Kasi relevant range ka eh. Effectively, kaya pa rin niya ang 3,750,000. Nataon lang na ito yung produce mo. Okay, 3,500,000. Conversion cost. Conversion cost, all manufacturing costs other than direct material cost. 15,225,000 and 16,050,000. Pansinin nyo to, initial glance pa lang, nag-a-analyze ka na. Tignan mo to, despite the fact na mas marami yung sales units mo, mas mababa pa rin ang conversion cost. Dito 1 million lang, pero conversion cost mo 16,050,000, di ba? Ayun, pero pagtingin natin sa conversion cost per unit, that is now low 5 divided by low 6, for 20X1, 4.35. For 20X0, 4.28. In terms of price, magkakaroon ng variance yan. In terms of productivity, at yung tinitignan natin na productivity, magkakaroon din ng variance yan. Okay? Ito na siya. So, conversion cost, additional information. Conversion cost for each year depend on production processing capacity defined in terms of the quantity of square centimeters of silicon wafers that Logitech can process. This cost will not vary with the actual quantity of silicon wafers processed. Isa lang ang gustong sabihin sa atin sa conversion cost. Conversion cost by nature is what? That is fixed cost. Okay, yun ang una nating kailangan malaman. Pag nag-analyze ka na ng cost, alin doon ang variable, alin doon ang fixed. Okay? Conversion cost is a fixed cost. Labor is a variable cost. Materials, materials is the variable cost. Logitech incurs no research and development costs. Its marketing, sales, and customer service costs are small relative to the other costs. However, guys, sa example na to, wala pa tayong marketing and sales. What if nagkaroon ng marketing and sales? Okay? Hindi ko muna pre-set. Okay, hindi ko muna. Pero pareho siya ng concept ng fixed cost. Anyway, tuloy lang natin. Logitech has fewer than 10 customers each purchasing roughly the same quantities of ST1 because of the highly technical nature of the product. Logitech uses a cross-functional team for its marketing, sales, and customer service activities. Dito pa lang kitang-kita mo that the company is hell-bent on utilizing yung tinatawag natin na strategic cost management. Yan. This cross-functional approach ensures that although marketing, sales, and customer service costs are small, entire Logitech organization, including manufacturing engineers, remain focused on increasing customer satisfaction and market share. As promised, tuturuan din kita nito. Tuturo ko rin sa yan, the market share and the market size variances. Okay? So additional info pa rin, Logitech's asset structure is very similar in 20X0 and 20X1. The market growth rate in the industry is 8% in 20X1. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin nun yung total population natin, total potential customers, nag-increase ng 8%. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng market growth. Operating income for each year is as follows. Okay? Ito na. Okay, technical analysis na tayo. From the technical analysis, gagamitin natin siya sa interpretations natin. First and foremost, we need to compute for the revenues. We need to compute for the net income. This is the easy part. So from the revenues, that is 22 selling price per unit times 1,150,000. Paano ma-compute natin sin 20x1 na total revenues? Do the same for 20x0. That's 23 pesos times 1 million is 23 million. Okay, madali pa yan, di ba? So ito yung cost natin. Materials, 150 at 2.9 million and 140 at 3 million. This is not our raw material cost. Kinolor code ko para madali mo siya maintindihan. Madali mo siya hanapin. Yung conversion cost natin na 15 million to 25 and 16 million 50 respectively are given. Given yan ha. Kinuha natin yung total cost mo, total of conversion and direct materials, that's 19,575. And for our 20x0, that's 20,250. This is now our net income. Our net income significantly increased by 2,975,000 favorable. Question is, ano sa tatlong components ang nag-contribute ng increase in income of 2,975,000? Is it price? Is it price recovery, growth component, or productivity? Yun ang titignan natin. So the goal of Logitech managers is to evaluate how much of the 2,975,000 increase in income was caused by the successful implementation of the company's strategy niya? Cost leadership strategy. In the last board exam, ganyan yung situation na binigay. Okay, meron silang similar to this. Mga feedback lang. Sir, may strategy. Nag-decrease ng selling price. Na ganun. So pag decrease in selling price, automatic cost leadership na yan. Was it successful? O yun yung question, which is what we will now do. So guys, titignan natin ha, pag successful nga yung kanyang cost leadership strategy. Okay, so ito na siya. This is the information needed for us to compute for the revenue variances. So kailangan muna natin yung sales units of the both years and the selling price of both years. Kailangan natin yan. Okay? Ito na siya. Okay guys, direct approach tayo. Tabulated analysis. Sales this year is computed at 25.3 million. Nakita mo na yan. Okay, nakita mo na yan. Balik natin saglit. Okay, nasan ba yun? Nasan na siya? Okay, nasan ba? Oh, sorry sa mga guys. Sorry. Nandito. Yan, mali na pindot ko. Sumobra tuloy. Okay guys, so yan. Dito pala, dito. Ito yung ating revenues. 25.3 million at saka 23 million. Di ba meron na tayo niyan? So pag nag-tabulated approach tayo, ito na yan. 25.3 at saka 23 million. Ang kailangan mo na lang is sales this year at last year's price. What is sales this year? That is your sales units this year. Lang na sales units this year natin, 20x1, 1,150,000 based on last year's price of 23. Ito na yon. Di ba guys, ito na yon. So the difference between sales this year and sales this year at last year's price is the price recovery component. Nothing new pag master natin yung revenue variances natin. Alam mo na yan pag master mo sa revenue variance. How about the growth component naman? The difference between the two is already the growth component. Okay guys, yung difference ng dalawang yan ha, ito yung dalawang yon is the growth component. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Ano ibig sabihin nito? Take note, so interpret tayo. Kasi kailangan natin to sa decision making natin. Madali lang mag-compute pero mas nag-level up ka kung marunong ka mag-interpret. Ang strategy natin is cost leadership. What is cost leadership? Making the product more affordable. Doon mo maintindihan kung bakit ang selling price niya from 23 pesos, ginawa niyang 22. Making it more affordable. Cost leadership yan. So if the selling price will decrease, automatic what will happen sa price recovery? It becomes unfavorable. Okay, naging unfavorable siya. But because of making the product more affordable, what will happen to our sales units? Yung sales units natin will significantly increase. If the significant increase, what happens? Pag significant increase, naging favorable yung growth component natin. Dito pa lang, malalaman mo na kung successful yung strategy niya in terms of revenue pa lang. So pag ninet natin yan, 3,450,000 minus 1,150,000, favorable 2.3 million increase in sales because it was more affordable. Simply stated, mas mataas yung increase in sales units kesa sa decrease in sales due to the decrease in selling price. Pag sa economics sana yan, pag sa economics ano to, the product is said to be elastic. Okay, elastic siya. Elastic cover, inelastic. Yan. So yun siya ha, pagdating sa aircon. So guys, take note ha, 2.3 million yun. Okay, 2.3 million. Tandaan mo yung difference na 2.3 million. Kasi pag tinignan natin this year at saka last year, yung net income mo, guys, magkano difference in net income? The difference in net income is 2.3 million. Tama? 2.3 million. Difference in revenues, revenues. 2.3 million. Yun siya in terms of the revenues. Alam natin kaagad, 1,150 price recovery, 3,450 growth. Now, alternative solutions. Okay, so siyempre, hindi tayo kontento sa isang approach lang. Yeah? So the more approaches, mas magaling ka, mas maganda, mas siga ka. Alam nyo guys, sa actual situations, wala namang pakialam ang management kung paano mo na-compute yung amount na yan. What is important is, napalabas mo yung tamang amount, marunong ka kung paano mo siya interpret. Yun ang what matters in real-world situations. Yan ang kagandahan sa managerial. We are not governed by standards. Open yung approaches natin. So pareho lang, di ba guys? Pareho lang. Per unit approach yan. 22 minus 23 times 1,150. This is the easy part. And for the growth naman, 1,150 minus 1 million times 23. Pesos, selling price, 3,450, favorable. Okay, alternate solution. Ayan. Okay, analyzing changes in cost. So dito tayo. Ito na si variable component natin. Sa variable component, ang kailangan nating makuha muna is known as the input this year at last year's production ratio. It is synonymous to what is known as, kanina inuntudos ko sa inyo yon. Similar pagdating sa actual versus budget or actual minus standard versus standard. It is synonymous to the flexible budget allowed. Okay, the quantity allowed for the flexible budget. Ito siya. It is simply computed the sales units last year divided by the input units last year. In fact, this is a measurement. Dito pa lang guys, productivity na yan eh. Productivity measurement na to. Multiply mo lang ng sales units this year. Okay, sales units this year. Yung na-compute mo dito is the input-output, that is the output-input ratio. Yung na-compute natin dito. Once minultiply mo lang sales units this year, that should have been the consumption of units if the same ratio will hold true from the previous year to the current year. Okay? Ito siya. Okay, so guys, ito yung kailangan natin na information para ma-analyze natin si variable component. Units of ST1. Ito kailangan natin i-compute muna ha. Ito muna. The input this year at last year's production ratio. Ito siya. You need this information. Ito yung bago sa balance scorecarding natin. So again, meron tayong number of units produced and sold, pero meron tayong direct materials. What will we do? Kukunin natin yung input-output ratio last year. I-adjust natin, what if the same will hold true in 20x1? Ilan kaya dapat ito? Okay, i-convert natin yan. I-ratio and proportion natin to 1,150. So ano gagawin natin? First and foremost, i-divide mo lang. So, units of input per unit of output in the previous year. Diba? 3 million ang kinonsume natin with 1 million na sales units. That is the input-output ratio. Meaning, you had to consume 3 square meters of your raw materials to produce 1 unit of the finished product. That was last year. If the same will hold true in the current year, ilan dapat ang na-consume natin? It should have been 3,450,000 square meters of the raw material. Ito yung 1,150,000 kanina. Ito yan. Multiply mo na siya ng ratio, 3,450. This is what we're going to use in analyzing the variable cost variances. Okay? Guys, yan yung importante. Dapat marunong tayo mag-compute nito. Okay, malaking bagay na yan. And this is now the additional information needed for us to compute for the variances, direct materials consumption this year and last year. And ito yung per unit niya, di ba? Ito yung per unit niya, i-multiply na natin. Okay? Pag minultiply mo siya, 2.9 million times 1.5, this is now the total for this year. Total this year is again synonymous to actual. Tama? And this is now the total last year. What is total last year? Synonymous to standard. Okay, kaya tuloy, pag present natin sa tabulated approach natin, ganito ang itsura ng mga variances ng variable cost. Okay, so guys, total variable cost this year is given. Okay, given yan. 4,350,000, yan yung compute natin. 4,350,000. 4.2 million given din yan. Total variable cost last year, given din siya. Now look at this. Look at this. Ito yung kinompute natin na 3,450,000 kanina. I-multiply mo siya ng variable cost this year. And then notice guys, transition mo siya variable cost last year. So from total variable cost this year, compare it with variable cost this year, multiply with input this year at last year's production ratio will give us 5,175,000. What are we trying to compare between the two? Ang kino-compare natin dito guys is in fact the quantity. This is based on quantity consumed this year versus what should have been if the same ratio will hold true from previous to the current year. Anong measurement yan? Consumption yon. Consumption, what should have been, is a measurement of productivity. Kaya nga ang productivity, mas maintindihan mo yan pag alam mo yung yield variances ng materials at saka labor. So simply stated guys, naging productive tayo. What is meant by this one? Price leadership. Pag price leadership, we're taking advantage. We're making it our input components more efficient. So tuloy, ano nangyari? Did we make it more efficient? Yes. Naging favorable yung productivity natin. So doon pa lang, alam mo na kaagad, mukhang successful ang cost leadership strategy ng company. Okay, dito pa lang, kita mo kaagad dyan. Kasunod, guys, pansinin nyo to. Price, logical naman, di ba? Logical ang price. That is variable cost this year minus variable cost last year. Ito yon. Synonymous to actual price minus standard price. Para anong quantity ang gagamitin natin? You can no longer use actual quantity. Kasi yung actual quantity, ginamit mo na nung nag-compute ka ng productivity. Ano kailangan natin gamitin? You have to use the input this year at last year's production ratio. Ito na ang magiging basis mo to compute for the price variance. Yun nga lang ano nangyari sa ating price. Kitang-kita, di ba? 150 dati ang materials natin, 114 dati. Ngayon naging 150 na. Tumaas ang presyo. Bakit kaya? Very simple guys. Pag tumaas ang presyo, malamang of quality ang raw materials natin. If it is of quality, it will improve its productivity. So nag-sacrifice ka nga ng productivity, nag-sacrifice ka ng price, para productive naman yung nabili mo na raw materials. So doon pa lang may qualitative interpretation na yun. Okay? Kasunod. How about the consumption of goods? Ito na si growth. Because of the additional units sold. Ano gagawin natin dito? That is now the difference between the two. Variable cost last year times input this year's last year's production ratio. Versus the total variable cost last year. Anong kino-compare natin dito sa dalawan to? Ang kino-compare natin dito sa dalawan to is the quantity. This is the input this year at last year's production ratio versus the consumption or the quantity last year, last year's quantity. Multiply with the price of the previous year or standard price. Diba? Normally, ano ginagamit natin dito? Ginagamit natin dito is actual quantity minus standard quantity. Kaso hindi mo na pwedeng gamitin sa actual kasi ginamit mo na siya sa productivity. Ano gagamitin mo? Ito, synonymous to the flexible budget, allowed na lang. So this will give us what? The growth component. Unfortunately, what happened to our growth component? Again, it became unfavorable. Okay? So tingnan natin yan. Mamaya isa-summarize natin. That is known as what? That's the tabulated approach. Guys, wala yan sa libro. Okay, wala yan sa libro. Screenshot mo na if I were you. Anyway, let's continue. Alternate solutions na naman. So pag alternate, ito naman si productivity natin. Okay, pati to guys, pati to. These are the most common. Ito mga alternate solutions na nilagay ko yan, traditional approaches. Yan ang mahanapan mo sa mga libro. Okay, mga traditional. Pero bihirang-bihira to sa mga libro natin. Okay, halos wala. Okay, this traditional approach, productivity is still what? Pansin natin, difference in the quantity. Diba? That is actual quantity versus the budget allowed. Or it's now the adjusted input-output ratio based on current year sales. Ayan. So 8 million to 825,000 pa rin naman. Ito pa rin siya. Price, tingnan nyo itong price natin. Yung price, difference in price, mas madali sa per unit approach. This is what? Actual price minus standard or price this year minus price last year. Multiply with the adjusted quantity na naman. Okay? Adjusted quantity. 345 unfavorable. And finally, guys, si growth component. What is growth component? Adjusted quantity based on input-output ratio versus quantity last year. Ito yun. Times 140 last year will still give us 630,000 unfavorable. Okay? So, ayun, alternate solutions natin yan. Kaya pag napansin nyo, yung alternate solutions na yan, yung pagkahaba-habang computation na yan, ang katapat niya, tabulated analysis lang yan. Okay, tabulated lang. That's the variable cost. Next. Okay? Doon tayo sa fixed cost naman. Okay, sa fixed cost naman tayo. Diretso na tayo sa analysis. Okay, diretso na. These are the information needed for you to analyze the fixed component. Kailangan natin ng manufacturing capacity of 3.5 million of the current year and 3,750,000 of the previous year. In fact, pagdating sa mga formulas, ito yung kailangan natin unang hinahanap. Ano yung isa-substitute mo? Conversion cost, meron na tayo nito. Okay, so given din yan. Pati yung per unit natin, meron na rin tayo nito. Given na. So what are the variances? That's it. Ganyan kadali yung variances niya. Nandyan na. Fixed cost this year. Again, guys, screenshot mo to. Wala to sa libro. Yung approach na yan. Fixed cost this year. Given. Di ba, guys? Given yung dalawang yan. 15,225 and 16,050. Both are given. Ano lang i-compute mo? Ito lang. Sa tabulated approach. Unit cost this year at 4.35 times capacity last year of 3,750,000. Makukuha mo na yan. So what happens? The difference between the two, automatic is equal to what? Productivity variance ka agad dyan. Take note, wala siyang growth kasi relevant range ito. Okay, relevant range. Anong ino-compare natin dito sa dalawang to? Fixed cost this year, unit cost this year. Diba? So pareho lang sila ng cost. Kaso nga lang, this is based on what capacity? Capacity this year. Capacity last year. Kaya productivity siya. I hope nakuha niyo na yung logic niya. We were able to maximize the utilization of our resources in terms of fixed cost. Productivity became favorable. Are those measurements of successful product or successful cost leadership? Answer is yes. Okay, successful cost leadership na naman to. In terms of price, ano nangyari? Medyo naging expensive. Naging unfavorable siya. Yeah? Pero walang problema doon. Kasi ang concern naman natin is more on price leadership. Okay, so productivity. Economies of scale. Okay, so ito na siya. Okay, so alternate solutions tayo. Present lang natin. Dagdag kaalaman na naman to. Productivity, capacity this year minus capacity last year times cost this year. By the way, guys, fixed cost this year minus fixed cost last year. As good as actual minus standard. Di ba? Pati sa variable natin kanina. Ano yung variable natin kanina? As good as actual minus standard. Di ba? Mabalik sa lahat. Pag binalikan natin si revenue, ito si revenue mo guys, actual minus standard. Simply stated, bumalik na sa basic natin na lahat ng variances will always boil down to what? It will always boil down to, masyadong malayo na pala. Okay? It will always boil down to actual minus standard or this year minus last year lang yon. Okay? So, balikan natin si fixed cost. Okay, balik tayo. Medyo malayo na pala. Hindi ko napansin. Malayo na pala yung concept na yon. So, dito tayo sa fixed cost natin. Alternate solutions of our fixed cost. Ayan. Ito na si fixed cost. Ito na siya. So, ito na yung solution kanina, di ba? Ito na siya. And finally, this is the alternate solutions. The alternate solutions, again, are the traditional methods. In terms of productivity, what are we trying to analyze? We're trying to analyze capacity. Ito yon, capacity this year minus capacity last year multiplied with the cost, the fixed cost per unit this year. Kaya siya naging ganito. Di ba? 1,087,500. Ito yon. And si price naman, syempre differences in price. Anong ino-compare natin guys? Per unit approach, price variance of fixed. That is the fixed cost this year minus fixed cost last year multiplied with quantity. Ano tong 3,750,000 na yan? 3,750,000 is in fact the capacity last year. Okay, so ibang-iba, no? Ibang-iba ang variance ng balance scorecard. Nag-deviate siya sa traditional methods natin. Kaya kung minsan nakakalito siya. Meron siyang sariling mundo. Alternatively, again, this is only for discussion purposes, yung growth component natin. Growth component for fixed cost. Ganun sabi ko sa inyo, wala siyang growth component. Pero para makita mo lang, capacity last year minus capacity last year times cost last year. Zero pa rin yan. Okay, zero pa rin. Those are the per item analysis. Nag-analyze tayo ng revenue, nag-analyze tayo ng variable cost, hiniwalay natin si fixed cost. Now, i-combine natin yung mga components natin. Earlier, nakapag-compute tayo ng growth component of 3,450,000 sa revenue. Nakapag-compute din tayo ng growth component ng direct materials of 3,630,000. Conversion was zero. Tama, zero out siya. So magkano to? Pag ninet na natin siya, anong growth component natin? 2,820,000 favorable. Okay, is this one of the attributes? Isa ba to sa attributes ng successful cost leadership? Answer is yes. Isa yan. Naging favorable siya. Tingnan pa natin further. How about the price recovery? Okay guys, price recovery. Price recovery, binagsak natin ang selling price. Tama? Binagsak ang selling price kasi nga it is more on price leadership, affordability. Kaya nag-suffer. Tapos yung raw materials natin and conversion cost, nag-suffer pareho yan. Kasi we had to purchase higher quality materials para mas maganda yung output niya. Sinacrifice natin ang price para maging successful tayo sa productivity. Okay? Those are attributes of price leadership. Kaya pansin nyo, price recovery, puro unfavorable yan. 1,757,500 unfavorable. Pero ano naman yung productivity natin? Materials, high quality materials was more productive. 825,000 favorable. Conversion cost natin, fixed component, is also favorable din. Ibig sabihin nun, maganda, mas naging efficient tayo dito sa productivity component natin. All of which became favorable. Okay guys, yan ang mga tinanong sa last na board exams natin. In fact, I am waiting nang ibibigay nila is the analysis, in-depth analysis of the growth component. Kaya pag sinamarize natin, ganito na itsura niya. Di ba kanina, kinompute natin yung net income ng 20x0 at saka 20x1. Ito yung mga net incomes natin. And then, break down natin yung growth component of the revenue and the cost. We also have the price recovery component of the revenues and the cost. And ito naman yung ating productivity component. Ang productivity, ano lang meron nun? Only the cost component lang. Ano nangyari? Pag tinotal natin to guys, pag tinotal mo yan, that is the difference in net income. Ano nga ba difference in net income ulit? Na-compute na natin to kanina. 5,725 minus 2,750 will give us 2,975,000 na reconcile na natin yung net income niya. Earlier, we started with wanting to analyze saan nanggaling yung 2,975 na yan. We wanted to analyze pag successful nga yung ating strategy, which is price leadership. Sa tingin pa lang, successful ang price leadership natin. Kasi favorable ang growth component, favorable lalo ang productivity component. Ito, ang pinaka-tinitignan natin pagdating sa price leadership. Pag ang success natin is based on, ang strategy natin is based on product differentiation, ang titignan mo, ito dapat. Ito dapat siya. Anyway, meron tayo niyan mamaya. Meron tayo. Okay, so now, bonus discussion na tayo. This is what I am waiting na next na lalabas sa exams. In fact, feeling ko ito na yung next na lalabas sa exams natin. Kasi tapos na sila sa basics. Tapos na ang basic. Guys, ang diniscuss ko sa inyo for now are only the basics pa lang. Okay? The basics of financial perspective of the balance scorecard. What I'm expecting is itong ibibigay sa inyo. Further analysis of the growth component. Ang growth component natin of 2,820,000 subdivided into two, the market size and the market share. Pag master natin ang revenue variances, at this point, meron ka ng working knowledge. Quantity. The sales quantity variance can be further subdivided into two. The changes in number of units sold can be affected by two external factors, the market size and the market share. What is market size? Total population. Lahat ng players na industry, makikinabang pag nag-increase ang total market size. Okay, makikinabang tayo. An example ng market size, during the pandemic, nag-surge ang demand ng computers. Tumaas ang demand ng cellphones. Market size yun. Okay, market size. What is market share naman? Ang market share naman is our target market versus the captured market. Yun naman, di ba, sa marketing. Pag ang target market mo is 20% of the population, pero ang nakuha mo is 24%, that's your captured market. Market share yung additional 4% mo. Yun ang market size at saka market share. The growth component, also known as the sales quantity variance, is affected by the market size and the market share. So what is market size again? Keyword, total number of potential buyers of a product or service in a given market and total revenue that these sales may generate. Lahat tayo na players in the industry will take advantage of the increase in market size. Okay, pag nag-decrease, lahat tayo magsasuffer. Pag nag-increase ang total population, good for us. Yun ang market size. Market share again, as stated earlier, your captured market mo to. Okay, ito yung na-capture mo. Ito yung naging share mo. Yun. So, market size and market share. Ito na si growth component natin. Alam nyo, sa discussions ng mga to, may nakalagay pa nga sa discussions if you want an in-depth analysis, it's again a little bit more complicated. Sabi pa niya, di ba? Pero this is now, ito na yung, in fact, madali lang naman Logic lang gagamitin natin dito. So earlier, meron tayong market growth rate in the industry of 8% in 20x1. Given yan. So earlier, nagkaroon tayo ng increase in number of units sold. Kaya di ba sabi ko sa inyo, growth is in fact the sales quantity variance. Last year, 1 million lang ang nabenta natin. This year, 1,150,000 ang nabenta natin. Nadagdagan tayo ng 150,000 units. Ang question ng dyan is, sa 150,000 units na yan, ilan kaya ang nanggaling sa increase in market size? Then ilan kaya ang nanggaling sa increase in market share? Okay, so ito yung breakdown niya. Simple lang ito. Ang gagawin mo lang, In the previous year, meron tayong 1 million na customers. Nag-increase ng 8%. Ibig sabihin nun, of the 150,000, 80,000 is attributed to the increase in market size. Okay? Nag-increase in market size because of the 80,000. Ibig sabihin nun, yung remaining na 70,000. What is the remaining 70,000? That is due to the increase in market share. Yun ang breakdown nun. So pag breakdown natin tong 2,820,000 na yan, what happens? Yan na guys, di ba? 80 at saka 70. I-prorate mo na lang. So pag pre-rate natin to, 2,820,000 growth component, the market size is 80,000, di ba? Prorate na lang natin. Times 80,000 over 150 will give us what? What then is the growth component attributed to the market size? 1,504,000. Ano interpretation yan? Salamat naman sa total population. At dumami ang total population. Since dumami ang total population, tayo rin nakinabang. So guys, take note ha. Yan ang tinatawag nila sa marketing na consumer movement. There is increase in total population. Nakinabang din tayo. Salamat naman. But, nag-effort din tayo. Of the 2,820,000, 1,504 was due to the market size. Pero nag-effort si marketing department. Kaya pag binawas natin tong 1,504,000, what is 1,316,000? That is the result of the effort of marketing doing its best against its peers. May stiff competition pa rin yan. Since magaling ang marketing natin, nadagdagan ang ating total number of units sold. Nag-increase ang revenues natin ng 1,316,000. That is the market share. Effort yan ng marketing. Okay, nagtrinabaho yan. Trinabaho siya. Alternate solution, 2,820 times 70 over 150. Ganun lang kadali yun. That's known as the market share variance. Masterin nyo to. Okay, masterin nyo yan. Screenshot nyo na yan. Okay, screenshot nyo yan. Kasi malamang malapit nang lumabas to sa board exam at saka ito. Okay, malapit na rin niya lumabas sa board exam. Pero masasagutan mo lang yan provided marunong kang mag-compute ng growth variance mo na. Growth variance ng revenue at saka growth variance ng cost components. And finally, okay, malapit na patapos na to. Okay, ito na yung summary natin. So pag pinagsama-sama natin lahat, ito na si product differentiation. Product differentiation is on the price recovery cost effect, which is unfavorable. Di ba? Which is understandable naman. Kasi hindi naman product differentiation ang strategy ni Logitech. What was the strategy of Logitech? It was cost leadership. And these are the measurements. These are now the qualitative measurements quantified using the variances of cost leadership. Productivity favorable, price recovery unfavorable sa revenue. Ang interpretation dito guys, sinacrifice mo. I-lower mo yung selling price mo. You're making the product more affordable. Pero of high quality product ka. Sa introduction ko sa inyo kanina, may nabanggit ako sa inyo. How do we satisfy the customers? Offer them an affordable product that is of high quality. So for you to do that, ang production process dapat natin, we are efficient dapat. Which is now evident sa favorable productivity mo. Evident din sa favorable na, unfavorable na price recovery, pero favorable naman yung market share variance mo. So were we successful sa cost leadership strategy? The answer is yes. Naging successful tayo. Earlier, nung nag-start tayo mag-variance analysis, ang gusto nating malaman is ano yung breakdown ng 2,975,000 na yan. What are the factors resulting to this? Ito na yung pinaka-summary niya. Price recovery, cost effect, 607. Ito na yan. Cost leadership, okay, 2,078,500, which is now this one. And the market size. Guys, take note of market size. Hindi kasi tayo nag-effort dyan, di ba? Wala tayong effort sa market size, kaya nakahiwalay siya sa analysis natin. Ano yung analyze natin? Only these components lang, yung unang dalawang to measure the efforts done by the company. Okay guys, yan ang pinaka-summary niya. Conclusion, eto na. Gamitin na natin siya. So based on our analysis, eto na yung sasabihin natin sa top level management. Were we successful? The answer is yes. The strategy of management of cost leadership was successful. It generated productivity gains of 1,912,500 in X1, were a big part of the increase in operating income from the previous year to the current year. Yan yung in-effort natin. Ito yan. Okay? So ito kasing portion na to, yung market size na yan, hindi tayo nag-effort, di ba? Wala tayong effort dyan. Ito yung in-effort natin, which is 1,912,500 productivity gains. So Logitech took advantage of this productivity gains to decrease price by 1 peso per unit. Nag-sacrifice tayo ng 1,150,000 to gain 1,316,000 in operating income by selling 70,000 additional units more. Yan yung in-effort ni marketing department natin. Okay guys, that is the end of the illustrative problem. Okay, last 2 questions na lang to. Para sigurado na naintindihan natin. An operating income analysis of Paul Reynolds Incorporated revealed the following. Operating income for X2, add growth component, deduct price recovery component, add productivity component, operating income. Reynolds operating income gain is consistent with what? Okay guys, ano yung mga favorable variances niya? Growth component and productivity component. If growth component and productivity component are favorable, what strategy was utilized by the company? Tamang sagot doon, cost leadership. Similar to our illustrative problem. Expect similar problems like this in the board exam. These are situational questions na kinompute na sa'yo, pero dapat alam mo kung paano siya interpret and analyze. Okay? Dapat marunong ka. So from there, another example tayo. An operating income analysis of debt non-incorporated revealed the following. Again, pansin natin. Operating income growth component, price recovery component naman. Unfavorable say productivity. Non-operating income gain is consistent with what strategy? Okay, pag ang kanyang favorable is significant the price recovery, automatic, you can offer a unique product. Since you can offer a unique product, you can charge a very high price. If you can charge a very high price, your price recovery component should become favorable. Those are what? Yun naman ang pang product differentiation strategy. Okay, guys, that is the discussion of the financial perspective variance analysis. Again, as stated earlier, kung ano yung present ko sa inyo, most especially yung mga tabulated na purchase na yon, will give you a bird's eye view on what you are analyzing sa mga variances niyo. Master the tabulated na purchase. After you master the tabulated na purchase, deeply analyze the alternative solutions in preparation for compartmentalized questions in the board exams. Okay? So ang purpose natin ngayong araw na to is to present to you an alternate solution of what is already present under balanced scorecarding, which is now trying to simplify it for you para mas lalo mo siyang maintindihan. Okay, so again, guys, thank you. Thank you for attending tonight's class. I hope nadagdagan yung kaalaman ninyo. I hope I was able to help you in any way that we can. Ang hangarin ng Rio is to help you become CPAs, mga students natin, become CPAs in the future, yung mga attendees natin na graduates na, preparing for the board exam. Ang hangarin natin sa iyo, of course, to pass the board exam. We are preparing you for that board exams. And for mga practitioners natin, kung na-present ko sa inyo, sana dagdag kaalaman yan, magamit natin sa actual practice natin. And from this, i-share nyo kung anong napag-aralan ninyo, i-share nyo sa mga kasama ninyo. Okay? And as stated earlier, i-plug in ko na rin, So again, yung civil service, Rio is also offering civil service exams in the future kung gusto nating magtrabaho sa government, even pag accountant tayo, civil service is also required for accountants. So kailangan pa rin if you want to work in the government. Okay, so guys, at this juncture, I would now like to thank everybody for attending tonight's webinar. Okay, so again, see you in the future webinars, pre-webinars of Rio. Thank you everybody and have a good night. And God bless to you all. Maraming salamat sa inyo and welcome na rin sa inyong lahat. Okay, so this is Rhad Estoque. See you again in the future